Have you ever watched a women's basketball game and wondered why the referee suddenly blew the whistle when nobody even touched anyone? Or why a shot that looked perfectly fine got called back? If you've ever been confused watching a WNBA or NCAA game, stick around, because by the end of this video, you will understand the rules better than half the people sitting courtside. This is going to be a deep dive, so get comfortable, because we are covering everything from court dimensions to flagrant fouls, and trust me, there are some surprising differences between college and professional women's basketball that most fans don't even know about. Welcome back to Basketball Daily, the channel where we break down the game so you never miss a beat, whether you're a lifelong fan or someone who just started watching last season. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button, because we drop videos like this every single week, breaking down rules, strategies, and everything happening in the world of basketball. Now let's get straight into it. Let's start with the court itself, because everything in basketball begins with the space the game is played on. The court is a rectangle, with clearly marked boundary lines all around it, a mid-court line splitting it into two equal halves, and a free throw lane right under each basket. In NCAA play, this lane is 12 feet wide, and the basket itself sits at the same height across every level of basketball, 10 feet off the ground. Now here is something interesting. The basketball used in the WNBA has a very specific size and weight. The circumference must fall between 28.5 and 29 inches, and it has to weigh somewhere between 20 and 22 ounces. That might sound like a small detail, but it actually affects grip, shooting accuracy, and even how the ball bounces off the rim. Uniforms also follow strict rules that a lot of casual fans never notice. In NCAA basketball, there are legal color requirements for undergarments worn beneath the jersey, and headbands cannot exceed 4 inches in width. These might seem like small technicalities, but referees actually check for this before games, and violations can lead to a player being told to change before they're allowed on the court. Now let's talk about game structure, because this is where things start to differ quite a bit between college and professional women's basketball. NCAA games are played in 4 quarters, each lasting 10 minutes. The WNBA, on the other hand, plays 4 quarters of 12 minutes each. That difference of 8 extra minutes across a full game might not sound like much, but over an entire season, it adds up to a significant amount of extra playing time for professional athletes. The shot clock is another major difference, and this one actually changes the entire pace and strategy of the game. In NCAA basketball, teams have 30 seconds to attempt a shot once they gain possession, but in certain situations, like after a dead ball change of possession in the front court, that clock resets to just 20 seconds. The WNBA plays with a much faster 24-second shot clock across the board. This means professional games tend to move quicker, with more possessions per game, while college games allow teams a bit more time to set up their offense. There's also the backcourt rule, which trips up a lot of new fans. In NCAA play, a team has 10 seconds to advance the ball past midcourt after gaining possession. If they fail to do that in time, it's a turnover, and the ball goes to the other team. This rule prevents teams from stalling and forces the game to keep moving forward. Now let's get into player actions and violations, starting with one of the most misunderstood calls in basketball, traveling. A lot of people think any movement of the feet while holding the ball is automatically traveling, but that's not true. Players are actually allowed to execute what's called a jump stop, where they land on both feet at exactly the same time, and this is completely legal. Understanding this one rule alone will change the way you watch every single game from now on. Personal fouls are another area where the rules are more nuanced than most people realize. These generally cover illegal physical contact between players, but here's something that might surprise you. Multiple touches with one hand are actually allowed in certain situations, particularly when a defender is legally contesting a shot or dribble without impeding the offensive player's movement. The key factor referees look at is whether the contact affects the opponent's balance, speed, or rhythm. Technical fouls are a bit more straightforward but still catch teams off guard during games. These can be called for things like calling excessive timeouts beyond what a team is allowed, or having more than 5 players on the court at one time, which sounds almost impossible but does happen during chaotic substitution moments. Then there are flagrant fouls, which are the most serious personal foul calls in the game. A flagrant 2 foul, which involves excessive or unnecessary contact, results in an automatic ejection, and depending on the circumstances, can lead to a 1-game suspension for the player involved. In some cases, if proper protocol isn't followed by the team, even the head coach can face consequences. This shows just how seriously governing bodies take player safety in women's basketball. Let's also touch on out-of-bounds situations, because there's a specific rule here that a lot of fans don't know exists. Players are not allowed to be physically assisted by anyone on the bench to help them stay inbounds or to help direct their movement while play is live. This might seem obvious, but it's actually written into the rulebook because there have been instances where teams tried to get creative with the boundary lines. Moving on to gameplay mechanics, let's talk about the restricted area, which is one of the most important concepts in modern basketball defense. Defenders are not allowed to establish a legal guarding position directly under the basket within this restricted zone. This rule exists specifically to prevent defenders from just standing under the rim and drawing charges on offensive players driving to the basket, which would make the game unnecessarily physical and unsafe near the rim. Substitutions might seem simple, but they actually have to follow a specific process. Players can only enter the game during stoppages in play, and they must properly signal to the officials at the scorer's table before checking in. This keeps the flow of substitutions organized and prevents confusion during fast-paced moments. And here's something that has become a bigger part of the game in recent years: instant replay. Certain plays, including shot clock violations and specific fouls, can now be reviewed using replay technology. This has actually changed the outcome of several close games, because officials can now go back and check exactly when the shot clock expired or whether contact actually occurred during a foul call. Now let's do a direct comparison, because I know a lot of you are wondering exactly how different NCAA and WNBA basketball really are. Game length is the first big difference, with NCAA quarters at 10 minutes and WNBA quarters at 12 minutes. The shot clock is another major difference: 30 seconds in college versus 24 seconds in the pros. Court markings also differ slightly, with lane dimensions and hash marks varying between the two levels, which is something you can actually spot if you look closely at broadcasts of both types of games side by side. Uniform and equipment rules also show some interesting contrasts. NCAA rules allow players to wear religious headwear without needing a special waiver, as long as it's deemed safe for play. Meanwhile, the WNBA has its own specific requirements for ball construction and net thread material, which are designed to maintain consistency across every single professional game played. All of these rules exist for one core reason: to ensure fair play, protect player safety, and maintain consistency across every level of competition. And these rules aren't set in stone forever either. They get updated periodically as the game evolves, as player safety research improves, and as officiating standards get refined based on real game situations. So now you know the difference between a jump stop and a travel, you understand why the shot clock changes based on the level of play, and you know exactly what happens when a flagrant foul is called. Next time you're watching a game with friends, you're going to be the one explaining the rules instead of asking questions. If you learned something new in this video, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. And if you want more breakdowns like this covering rules, player comparisons, and everything happening in basketball, make sure you're subscribed to Basketball Daily with notifications turned on, because we've got a lot more coming your way. Drop a comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.